Hey, what's happening, guys? So, I've been on this quest to find the perfect controller, and today I've come pretty close yet again. Now, previously I reviewed the Steelseries Stratus XL, and I was very disappointed with it. It had software, which was required to run the thing, but it didn't even let me adjust anything I wanted. It couldn't adjust the dead zones to be any lower. It couldn't rebind the buttons. It would have been a great controller if it let me do that through the software, but instead it forced proprietary software that didn't really help me at all. And it would have been better off with just a USB dongle to save me some money on Bluetooth for the other PCs that I might own and might want to play it on. So that was unfortunate. Now, I've been in contact with a company called Gamesir, and they've sent me two other products. And we're reviewing the third one today, but one of them was the G3S, and the other one before that was the G2S. Now, the G2S was a mobile controller first and a PC gaming controller second. This one is a PC controller first. They included the adapter to let you use your phone with it as like as an option. It came with a little cable that you can connect to your phone directly in case you didn't want to use Bluetooth. But it did have a few shortcomings. For example, you had to use a dongle, and while I'm fine with that, there was no compartment to store the dongle, which was annoying. Thankfully, unlike the Stratus XL, it didn't use AA batteries. You can just charge it directly, and you can plug it in directly, but without that dongle, it's a little difficult to play it wirelessly if you lose it, because, you know, you can't do it at all. So yeah, a compartment would have been nice. Dpad it's a little too thin for my taste. I really do not like it. My hands slip around it very easily, and especially if you're like really intensive with fighting games, you might accidentally hit the stick. Not the worst D-pad I've ever used, and in this day and age, it's actually kind of sad that a lot of controllers just can't do the D-pad well anymore, aside from maybe Nintendo. Yeah, it's a little annoying to say the least. And then my third complaint was the analog triggers. There's some issues with the dead zones. They were mostly playable. Nothing to, like, X input in general, it's just a problem with the technology, I guess, because otherwise they would have to completely change the fundamentals of how, like, mechanically they would be pushed down. And Gamesir's a very small company. I imagine that they do, like, hardware clones because they look, I mean, look at this thing. It looks very similar to a PS4 controller. I imagine that they don't have, like, the money to design their, like, from the ground up, completely revolutionary control. It's not going to be a Chinese company that's that small. But anyway, the controllers did have a little bit of a dead zone issue. It's, again, perfectly playable, but in one game like Shadow of Mordor, when you were aiming with the bow, and when you were firing with the bow, sometimes, like, your character would draw, and then he would, like, you know, retract it, and it's like, what the hell? Like, it was basically unplayable. But other than that, most games worked fine. Buttons were good. It's a decent controller for the price. It's one of the controllers for X input that I would recommend for your PC if you're just starting out or if you need a secondary controller. It's a good buy if you're looking for something on the cheap. But that's not what we're talking about today. So, we're 3 minutes into the video and I haven't even mentioned the product. Well, here it is. There you go. It's the Gamesir G4S. This is their newest controller. Now, I'm going to be honest, 80 bucks. That's how much this controller is. 80 bucks. I know that's a hard pill to swallow. Now, this guy did go down in price a little bit. Maybe this one will. Maybe when it hits retail, it'll actually be 60. But right now, from what I see from their website, they're charging 80 bucks for it. And it's a lot to ask for a controller. I mean, a lot of people don't even want to pay 60. So why 80? Well, this controller has some of the best features I've ever seen. It's an overall really nice package. Now, I bring this controller today because I want to really compare the two. This controller, I would say, is the nicer, cheaper option. Everything else is cheaper, but it still has decent quality going on about it. This one, completely overhauled. It feels like you're getting your money's worth for the most part. Alright, so let's talk about a few of the positives. Like, how does the controller feel? What is it like? What are the buttons? So, that wasn't creepy at all. Anyway, so, texture-wise, on my skin, best feeling controller I've ever held. Ergonomically, it's really high up there too, but it's just so smooth and soft. It's so nice. It's really just nice. The thumbstick are, like, incredible feel to them. They don't have this grady feel. Like, I had this problem with the Xbox controller, the left stick. So, you notice right here, they put something on the outside of the stick so that when it hits, like, this outer ring here, it doesn't make a really annoying grinding noise. And you can still kind of feel that, but you can kind of hear it and kind of feel it, but it's not nearly as bad as other controllers, even first-party controllers that I've used. They've really done a bang-up job here. The controller feels amazing. The sticks are great. Now, Buttons. Very loud and tactile, so I get if you're doing YouTube and you don't want people to hear that. Yeah, I can see that being very annoying. I've played this in some games, I played the G4S, I think in my Dark Souls 3 review, and you could hear that. So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from if you say they're too loud. But they are very good buttons. Some people, there is a bit of a stick to them. A little bit, but it's nothing that impacts my game or that I get bothered by. It's just a subtle, it feels like a subtle touch. I don't feel like they're, like it's just another kind of texture that I haven't felt before. It's nice. It's not like, you know, the buttons are sticking to the bottom or getting stuck. Although I will say maybe if it is an issue, like later down the line, like in the lifespan, I don't know, because this is Gamesir is a very unknown company. Maybe drill the little outside of the holes a little bit wider, but you know, that's just my opinion. D-pad. Okay, the D-pad is not very much improved, but it has some nice things going for it. So I wouldn't recommend the controller overall for a fighting game. I'm having an issue right now where sometimes the down button won't register. It's not really registering in games, but sometimes when I'm scrolling down, I think if I'm not hitting hard enough, it's not like I'm like bottoming it out, like, you know, I have to do like this, but it just sometimes doesn't register. But other than that, it's a decent D-pad. It's a little small, unfortunately, still. But what I like is that it has the nice piece of plastics, little pieces of plastic in between each direction. Something like the PS4 controller have this issue where, like, if you're doing like a fireball, like reuse fireball in Street Fighter, like you're basically touching like nothing most of the time. There's like there's no and like transitioning between attacks. On the PS4 controller is terrible, but on most controllers, even when it is like, you know, like a proper directional pad instead of just 4 buttons, the transition and like moving between like doing a full circle or quarter circle, it's a little bit of a pain. But with those pieces of plastic, it's really nice. I like the touch there. It's a generally good feeling D-pad. It's a little flat, but it works. It's a functional one. It's actually a lot better than most of the controllers I use. So good on you, Gamesir. Select and Start all metal, have a nice spring to them. Pretty springy, honestly. You have to put a little bit more weight on them to press them, so you don't press them accidentally, which I like. Flip this thing up, and we have a clear and we have a turbo button. Yes, this thing has turbo fire. Now, support-wise, it supports X input, so PC, direct input. So if you want to play some really old games that don't use X input, well, you got it right here, which is great. I was playing Final Fantasy VII on this, which is a direct input only game, and it was working fine. Whoops. It has iOS support via iCade, so what you do is you hold one of these buttons, and you hold the middle button to select which mode you want. So this is iOS, this is Android, and this is X input PC. The dongle is included with this thing. You need a nail to get this thing out, basically, but that's really nice that I like how they included that, like a little slot for it, and it won't get lost. It doesn't like fall out easily. That's really nice. The home button is basically for stuff like Steam and turning it on and off, which I really like. Now you may notice all the LEDs, they're really pretty. On the top left there, you may notice that there's 4 blue LEDs that you can get several dozen hours of battery life out of this thing. And that's also a battery indicator, which is really cool. Let's see if I wanted to show off this feature, because you have to have it plugged in to adjust the setting. So what you can do, now the problem with this guy is that you cannot adjust the LEDs. I didn't have a problem with that, but I could see, you know, if you're playing late at night in the dark, yeah, you can easily see those lights unless you're holding it under your desk. But here, so if you held left trigger, right trigger, R3, and then look, with the D-pad, you can adjust the brightness of the LEDs. And you can also adjust the vibration too, which is it's really good. Customization-wise, that's really cool. That's what should have been on, something like that should have been on the Stratus XL. Even though you could adjust vibration, it would have been nice if it had LEDs that you can also adjust. Just more functionality to use your terrible software, Steelseries, is what I'm saying here. Add more so that you can customize it. Anyway, but yeah, I really like how they improved that. So far we have an improved D-pad, generally. We have the dongle. Now, what about the top? What about where the triggers lie, the issue I had? Now, this is kind of a controller, if we actually look back at the front. Sorry, really quick. Looks like a Moga Power mixed with the Xbox One controller. I don't have a Moga Power to show you, but just look it up. There's the internet. Anyway, so triggers. Very, very good. They don't have a lot of resistance to them, but they have just enough. They feel very solid. They don't make a lot of noise. Like, unlike the PS3 and the Yeah, you get the point. Very quiet. A lot more quieter than the Xbox One, too, which I was having some issues with. There's your charging port and your play port on the top there. Really nice. I love how they include this for wired play. Again, this thing is compatible with the PS3, PC, Android, and iOS. I don't know how you would do it for iOS. Maybe it's like a special cable, like, what is it, Thunderbolt? I was going to say lightning bolt. Thunderbolt cable, like micro USB to Thunderbolt, maybe. But Android should work just fine. PC, PS3, I believe you can also use this thing. If you can use this thing with like PS3 via Bluetooth, I don't think they would change as much. PS4, I do not believe so because of, you know, the lack of the touchpad, which is a little bit of a shame. But anyway, bumper buttons, pretty good feel overall. But my big problem with this controller. All right, here we go. So you can hit the bumpers, you know, here, but when you start hitting up here, can't press them, and that's a little annoying. So you kind of have to have your fingers positioned like this. You can't like curl them around and hit them from like the end of your finger. You got to be like this. It's a little annoying, but honestly, once you get used to it, it's fine. Now, at first I thought the dead zones were also pretty bad, and then I realized, like, I was playing PS4 recently. I'm like, oh wait, it's just the X input technology is just not very good. So dead zone wise, it's pretty typical for an Xbox, or like for anything that's emulated Xbox. I think it's a little bit larger, the dead zone, than most controllers, but it's nothing. Again, once you get used to it, like just using the controller for more than like an hour, you'll be fine. I was playing Metal Gear Rising, Dark Souls, Alien Isolation, and I benchmark controllers with my controllers with Dark Souls because if there's any input lag, oh, believe me, I will scream about it. But no, this is fine. Metal Gear Rising, that's a very button-intensive game. Gotta have a good controller for that. This thing worked very well. All in all, yeah, this is probably one of the best third-party controllers I've used. And you know what? Even though it's $80, I gotta say, and I was sent this for free from Gamesir, but I would probably buy this myself if I, you know, saw my own review and like, or I had to purchase this from Gamesir directly, because instead of like getting it free, because this is, again, one of the best third-party controllers I've used. Ergonomically, it feels amazing. Buttons feel great. It has a lot of compatibility under the hood. Now, one more time, if you don't have the money for a PS4 controller or this, I'd highly recommend getting this guy. It's a really good controller, and the Android functionality is a nice little bonus. And you can use it with a PS3. But if you want something that is high quality, feels really good, and something that'll feel like, again, I'm going to do some video where I compare all these controllers, and I'll list quality control in there, because that'll be after I've like spent months with this controller. Obviously, I want to review this thing within the week or two that I get it, unless there's a complication. But I want to see how well some of these controllers hold up. And the Gamesir G4S is still holding up pretty well. It's just I'm having some bugs with this thing. And it was having an issue syncing, and like it would desync. I'm pretty sure it's just a problem with my unit. But, and also it's unfortunately, G4S, I just realized this, it's missing the LED indicator at the bottom here for the G3 has. But it also has and one more thing. God, I can't believe, I'm already screwing this up. Reset button at the back, so in case it has some syncing issues or whatever, or it's stuck on something, you can just reset that with a little toothpick. But if you don't have the budget for it, get this guy. But I think this is a solid contender in the controller war that I'm going to have, featuring the Xbox One controller, the new one, the Bluetooth one that's coming out, the PS4 controller, the SteelSeries Stratus XL, the Logitech F310, and the Gamesir G4S, which I will also include. Guys, give this controller a look when it comes out. I believe it's available through Gamesir's site, or at least for pre-order. Definitely give it a shot, give it a look. Just, if you have the money, I think this is the controller you should use. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. I'm out.